So Steve, obviously my first interaction with you was years back, talking to Wilton Speight during his recruitment and his parents, and they talked about how he would fly across the country to come work with you. So that was a big part of his developmental process, his relationship with you. And so as you looked at him go to Michigan, and as I looked at him go to Michigan, I felt like his relationship with Jedd Fisch was a huge deal. And when Jedd left, I felt like that was a real point, kind of a point in his career, a crossroads, if you will. And I'm curious, as you look forward, how big you think the relationship with that quarterback's coach is going to be for his next step.
Well, quarterback coaches and quarterbacks are unique, because they're their own relationship. And what I mean by that, the coordinator or quarterback coach is almost more valuable than the head coach, because that's the one that they report to, on a day in and day out basis. For me, it was a very similar situation. I related this to Wilton. I played for Jack Elway, John Elway's dad, God rest his soul. My offensive coordinator was Dennis Erickson, and I had my greatest year as a junior. And then Dennis went on to take the head coaching job at Idaho. So we didn't hire an offensive coordinator. My offensive coordinator that next year was Jack Elway. Jack, I loved him dearly, but he was a head coach and he had to spend time with basically the entire team. So I think I suffered my senior year because I didn't have that connection to that guy. In Wilton's case, I think the biggest thing that happened for him was he had to go to a new coordinator and basically win his job, if you will, and then he got hurt. And that's the thing that people forget, is he got hurt. That injury was a very, very serious injury. You're talking about, in some cases, it could end your career. And so once he got hurt, and you had to go to a younger guy, and Brandon Peters, it just changed the whole dynamic. There was really no way for him. He understood the business aspect of it. There was no reason for him to come back because, one, he was going to graduate. Two, you went with a younger guy. For them to go back to the older guy with 1 year left and take the younger guy, put him back on the bench, that just didn't make a whole lot of sense for anybody. So I think it was probably in his best interest that he had to move on. But I think it may be a little bit overstated. People forget that not only did he have the injury, his last year at Michigan, but he finished his last 3 or 4 games at Michigan his sophomore season with a shoulder injury, and he played with that. But prior to that injury, he was winning Big 12 Player of the Weeks on several occasions. People forget that. So a lot of people were comparing him to Ben Roethlisberger, and that's somebody who I coached, so I knew very well. That's the kind of player he's still capable of being in the right system when healthy, and that's the biggest thing for him.
How close is he? I'm not asking you again. I don't want you to give anything away. How close is he to deciding what he's going to do?
I think he's fairly close. He's got about 3 or 4 schools that he's looking at. He wants to, I think he's also looking at kind of his timelines after the high school signing date to kind of see what shakes before he gives schools his final decision. He's graduated, so he's not in a big hurry, but he will probably make a decision here very shortly.
Yeah, very important breakdown for Michigan fans, Steve, because they are looking for some explanation as to you saw a certain guy his junior year, and like you said, everyone remembers how well he was going all the way up until that Iowa game, and then that's when he got injured. And then you come back in his final year, what turned out to be his final year, and there just seemed to be some different things at play. And obviously, coming off the injury was a big deal. Jedd Fisch leaving was a big deal as well. So great insight there. Appreciate your time. Any other guy? I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Who's coming down the pipeline for Steve Clarkson? Who are some of the guys that you are working with now?
Well, there's a guy in particular that Michigan should pay attention to because he's on their radar. It's a kid named Aaron McLaughlin, who is at Buford High School down in Atlanta, Georgia. He's a guy that certainly fits the mold of a Harbaugh quarterback. But there's quite a few. I mean, there's some that are here that people are going to see on Saturday. Playing Matt Corral is going to Ole Miss, Trevor Lawrence going to Clemson. There's some great kids that are here that I've had the opportunity to know for a couple years. And these are kids that I look forward to seeing on Sunday sometime.
I know you can't work with every kid in the country, but your quarterback school, information on Steve Clarkson, where can people go to kind of find out about your tutelage and the things that you do?
Just go to Steve Clarkson Dreammaker. You can just Google Steve Clarkson's the first thing that pops up, unless you're looking for Kelly Clarkson, dad. I have gotten that mixed up before, but and I'd love to claim her, but she's not my daughter. But no, just go to Steve Clarkson Dreammaker. Everything you need to know pops right up. My biggest camp of the year is the what we call the quarterback retreat. We do that every Memorial weekend. It's a huge event. Get a lot of turnout from like a lot of the top college quarterbacks, top high school quarterbacks come out, and they're there for mentoring the young kids. It's a family camp. We entertain the entire family, so it's really a great experience, and an experience that will last a lifetime.